knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with. That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're an Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I will slap you.
Go ahead, make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. I have with me a good friend, a longtime friend, a good man, David Kupelian, award-winning journalist, managing editor of WorldNetDaily.com, editor of Whistleblower Magazine, and the author of the best-selling book, The Marketing of Evil. And his newest book is How Evil Works. He wrote a recent article on WorldNetDaily.com, The Real Reason Obama Constantly Lies. David, good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
How are you, my friend?
All is well. David, you wrote a very interesting article on WorldNetDaily, The Real Reason Obama Constantly Lies. But I want to first ask you about your newest book, and then we'll get to this article, How Evil Works. What are you talking about in that book when you talk about how evil works?
Well, I mean, it's like asking a fish about water.
Yeah.
He's like so immersed in it, he doesn't see it. It's like we have this little thing called a conscience, and it's a little connection to God, and it tells us right from wrong. But it seems like the whole world around us is in the grip of something else and constantly pulling us in that direction.
Yeah.
And since I'm a newsman, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm writing this from the perspective of a journalist, and most of what we call news is bad news.
Yeah.
The mother that tucks her children in every night and reads them a bedtime story, that's not news. The Andrea Yates mother who drowns her 5 children in the bathtub in Texas, that's big news. And so most of what we report is just like most of history is bad stuff. So the nature of journalism is you're usually reporting crimes and genocides and terrorism and fraud and corruption. And so you get to where you want to really dig a little deeper and not just report the day's horrible stuff, but say, why? Why is this happening? What is it about human nature and our nature and God and our separation from God that leads us into all these things? So I try to delve into all that and go a little deeper, starting with the big news stories of the world, the big issues, and including I have one chapter on what's happened. I heard your promo, to men. Why are men so denigrated and the target of so much ridicule? I have a chapter on that, and on terrorism and so forth, and just go story by story and try to go a little deeper and explain, why it's all happening, what we can do about it.
I mentioned in the first hour this morning that I look at debates sometimes while watching TV, and I notice that the people are just giving out shallow information. The Republicans and the Democrats, they're just giving out information, stats, and who did this and who did that. And there's nothing that would really change your heart or change your mind about anything because they're not giving the truth as to what's really going on. And the real deal is that our battle is a spiritual battle between good and evil. But a lot of folks are not discussing that now, and it's not going to help the country.
That's exactly right. It's actually not cool to talk about God. There's an ick factor. Oh, he's one of those people. And yet, it's like, that's where all the answers are. I mean, whether you're talking about this topic today about, Obama, why he lies, or why the country's going the direction it is, or why men are so ridiculed today and becoming so feminized society, and whatever it is, there are no answers that don't have to do with what we really are, what our nature is, what we're meant to be, and what kind of impulses we're supposed to listen to. If you're going to ignore all that, you're just going to be barking up the wrong tree forever, and all your answers will lead to further complication and never get to any truth.
It's amazing, man. I have been told on interviews not to say that Obama is evil. They're like, well, what's wrong with Obama? I said, he's evil. It's a battle between good and evil, and Obama's on the side of evil. He can't be on the side of good and do what he's doing to destroy the family and the country. But they don't like that word anymore, evil. So I appreciate you writing about it in your book.
Well, they don't like evil because if you start talking about evil, that implies that there might be a God. At the other, it's a spiritual thing, and they don't want to go there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you think that we'll ever turn this around?
Well, we got a big chance in a few months. I mean, we America is amazing. We've had the same Constitution for 200 and whatever it is, 36 or so years, and we've had really, pretty seamless, civilized changes of power, and we've got a chance for a big one here in November. If enough people come out and vote the right way, Obama will go away.
Well, I have hope and faith that will happen, but when you look at what's going on, you have so many people who still believes in Barack Obama after knowing what he can do now. He's been in there for almost 4 years, and they see what he can do. And I talked about the young folks seem to be supporting him, the blacks, the Hispanics, and the people who are relying on government. And Obama he's not concerned about the white working class people because he seems to be trying to go around that. And I don't know if there is enough white working class people who can vote him out.
Well, yeah, you're right. His whole re-election strategy is basically to cobble together a coalition of all the unhappy people, the people that are either dependent on government or perpetually aggrieved, and like the minorities, gay rights lobby, women. Certain, not obviously not all minorities, not all women.
That's
but
right.
he's appealing to the people, to the resentments in people, and if he can kind of cobble together a coalition that exceeds 50% of the popular and electoral vote, then he's in again for 4 years. That's his strategy,
and that's what I'm concerned about. So,
and he's trying to buy them off right now. He just tried to buy off the gay vote by changing his position on same-sex marriage, and he's trying to buy off people that are underwater in their mortgages by doing mortgage refinance programs, and to buy off the young people with new student loan programs, and he tried to buy off women by creating this ridiculous war on women, Republican war on women, and all this stuff, So, and of course, blacks. I mean, I have the most sympathy there because America was a racist country. Look, America is the least racist country in the world.
Yeah.
The fact that they could elect a black president, if that does not prove that it's not a racist country, then I don't know what ever will. It's the least racist country in the world. But we used to have slavery. When I was a kid, we had segregation, the 2 water fountains, and then all the rest of it. And that was a national sin. And so I, to a certain extent, understand people saying, you know what, let's prove that we are not a racist country anymore, and to suspend their disbelief about everything they could see in front of them about Barack Obama, and he gave beautiful speeches. Let's elect a black president. I understand that. Okay, there was in the abstract there was something sweet about having a black man as president. Just not this one.
That's right. Let me take a quick break, David. Well said, man. When I come back, I want to talk about this article you wrote. Very interesting article. Back in a moment. I have known my guest for many moons. David Kupelian is here. WorldNetDaily.com. You can read his article, his recent article, The Real Reason Obama Constantly Lies. And David, I want to talk to you about this article, and you start out by talking about ABC News 2020's Christmas at the White House segment from last December, where Barbara Walters asked on what occasion Obama lies. And I just want to play for the folks. Here is what Obama had to say to Barbara.
On what occasion do you lie?
Usually, the only time I lie is very personal interactions with family members who you say, you look great, and they don't. Wonderful dress, not so much.
Things that would, where the truth would hurt other people.
Very interesting, David. And you say?
What can you do but laugh? You
I know, man.
This is a guy who basically, as I point out in the article, he lies, I would say, without exaggeration, every time he talks to the public, certainly.
Yeah.
Every time he opens his mouth and talks to the American public about what he's doing and why he's doing it and where he's going, he's lying. Because to put it in the most fundamental sense, the most superficial sense, he is a far lefty trying to lead America left. America, by all polls, is a center-right country. Yeah. About 75% of Americans self-identify as conservative or centrist, okay? Only about 21% identify as liberal. He's way to the left of liberal. He's leading us in that direction. He has to lie all the time or nobody will follow him.
You say that Obama lies as easy as breathing.
Yeah, I quote from George Will, who is a kind of a network conservative. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. He wrote a piece in the Washington Post recently where he refers to Barack Obama's intellectual sociopathy, his often breezy and sometimes loudish indifference to truth. And he's saying we shouldn't be surprised by that. In other words, what he's saying is that Obama lies very easily. He's breezy. It comes easily. He's a person who lies even when he doesn't need to. In other words, some people lie because they want to get their way, because otherwise the door stays closed.
Right,
okay,
right.
But he just lies even when he doesn't seemingly need to logically to get his way. He just is very comfortable with lying. And the examples are so many that you could. In fact, the whistleblower issue that this article is, I kind of developed this article from an article in our monthly magazine, Whistleblower. That issue, which is called Why Obama Lies, is the current issue. We have a list of Obama's lies in there, including the proof of that it is a lie that runs from the beginning of the issue all the way to the end. It runs throughout the issue. It's dozens and dozens of lies that are proven lies, not just like, well, I think he's lying about that, but like where PolitiFact or the Washington Post says, nope, 4 Pinocchios on that one. That's a total lie. And the irony is, Jesse, he seems to get away with it because the media just don't want to hold him. You know, he's like too big to fail. He's like these big banks. They gave him to us. They're the ones who touted him and didn't vet him and all that. And now that he's like so horrible, it's like they'll go down with him. So they continue to let him get away with it. And all that does is encourage him.
Yes, it does.
He learns. It's like a good liar learns he can get away with it, and it just encourages more lying.
Over the last 22 years, because I've run a nonprofit organization working with young men, I've seen guys who can lie, really smoothly lie, but when you catch them in that lie, you can see that they feel embarrassed about it, even if they want to admit right then that they lied. But with Obama, you can catch him in a lie, and he'll stand there in front of you, and instead of apologizing or showing a sense of shame about lying, he'll create another lie. And it's so smooth that you can hardly pick it up.
That's right. He is a very, to use an expression, he's a very good liar. It's very, I think Thomas Sowell wrote about this recently, and he said, I preferred Nixon because when Nixon lied, I could tell he was lying,
right.
Thomas Sowell said.
Right.
He said with Obama, unless you know about the subject that he's lying about, you can't tell he's lying.
Yeah.
Because he's so good at it.
You talk about malignant narcissistic personality disorder. What is that, and how does that relate to Barack Obama?
Well, everybody talks about narcissism. It's kind of a buzzword now.
Yeah.
Oh, he's narcissistic, and it's not come to mean stuff. But there is a psychiatric condition called narcissistic personality disorder, and that's like an extreme case of it. And the malignant version of narcissistic personality disorder is the version where it's like it crosses over into criminality. You're not just like a really good liar, but like you're a liar where it can lead into criminal acts.
Right.
And I have a friend who asked me not to use his name, but he's a well-known forensic psychiatrist. And that's a guy who does expert witness testimony, and he's been in thousands of court cases where he comes in. They want him to size up the psychological state of this person, child molester, whatever. Is he sane? Is he not sane? So he's a pretty good diagnostician. He's in his 70s, and he says yes, malignant narcissistic personality disorder, which is basically. I'm not a medical professional, and neither are you. But let's just say it's pretty close to being a sociopath.
Yes.
If anybody can Google these things and read up about the symptom picture. What are the signals, the key attributes of a person like that? And it's very close to being a sociopath. And the simplest way of describing a sociopath is somebody who does not have a conscience, an operating conscience.
Yeah.
It's basically like a spiritual animal where you're a predator. And other people out, it's like one thing that's said about it is that there's nothing sacred. Yeah. No one and no thing is sacred. Everybody out there is just resources for you to use to get what you want. It's very scary stuff.
This is such a good article, and I think that everybody and their mama should read it. We have about a minute and a half here before we're done. Tell the folks how to get read your article, and also how to get your books.
Well, the books are available anywhere. They can go online, Amazon or WND.com, our website, if they want an autographed copy. The article, which by the way has gone viral, we published it for a day a week ago, and it's still getting huge traffic. So it's all over the internet. But it's called "The Real Reason Obama Constantly Lies," and if you just Google that name, it'll come right up. And it's been, as I say, posted on a bunch of different websites. The Real Reason Obama Constantly Lies, and they can read the whole thing there. It's very interesting.
It's very, very interesting, and it's a compelling article. David, thank you for being on with us, man. I absolutely appreciate it.
I love being on with you. Call me back anytime.
I will. 888-7753-773.